So you know the verbs come in different binyanim, and you know that that's supposed to help you know how to conjugate. But how do you know what binyan a verb is? That is what today's video is all about. Shalom, everyone. This is actually one of the first videos I made, and I felt the need to redo the intro. This video is all about how to recognize what binyan a verb is. I didn't really talk about the circularity of it. It's like a vicious cycle. If you don't know what binyan a verb is, then you are going to have trouble conjugating it. And if you don't know how to conjugate it, you don't know what binyan it is, right? It's kind of a vicious cycle. So I hope this will be a helpful video. I'm really hopeful that it can just help you see patterns and help you determine what binyan a verb might be based on the vowel patterns. So here we are. Shalom and welcome back to Hebrew Grammar Help. I'm Sapir, and today I'm going to give you some tips on how to recognize what binyan a verb is. So you've learned that there are 7 binyanim, and you might even know the names of all of them. But I will be going over the full conjugations of each binyan in separate videos. But for now, this is a quick overview of how to quickly recognize what binyan a verb is in the wild. Okay, so I am going to show you the infinitive and the most basic form of the present, past, and future tenses. And I'm using X's to indicate the shoresh letters of the verb. And this little P here indicates a prefix because future tenses all have prefixes. There's no basic form without some kind of a prefix. Okay, now that I've got that out of the way, let's look at pa'al, or some people call this one ka. Ta'al verbs are known for their vav, sounding like an O in many of the forms, and also for not having any excess letters like a mem or a hey. And this is why it's often called kal, because simple, nothing extra. The infinitive has a vav between the second and the third letters of the shoresh. And it is the only infinitive with a vav that is not one of the shoresh letters. So if you hear or see an infinitive with that O sound towards the end of it, you know this is a pa'al verb. And now I'm going to give you a hint about verbs. The future tense almost always has the exact same vowel pattern as the infinitive in all of the binyanim. So it almost doesn't need to be said here. So for example, let me give you an example from the binyanim. Pa'al, we've got infinitive, lichtov. Future, tichtov. We've got an E and an O. PL, let's try ledaber. Future is tetaber, e-a-e. Hif'il, we have lehargish, and the future is targish. We've got an A and an E. Hitpa'el, we've got lehitkarev, and the future is titkarev. It-a-e. Nif'al, infinitive, lehikanes, and the future is tikanes. I-a-e. And pu'al and hufal do not have infinitive forms. So those were just examples from each binyan, and hopefully you could hear the similarities in the vowel patterns between the infinitive and the future. Now, pa'al does have a group of verbs that has an a instead of an o for its last vowel. And usually it's because either the second or the third letter of the shoresh is a guttural letter. So in that way, it can be quite predictable. But also there are other verbs that do not have a guttural in either of those positions, and they still have this just because they're irregular. I just wanted to mention it because I didn't want you to be lost in case you came across one of these and said, well, wait a second, this one doesn't match. And it doesn't have an O. How can it be a pa'al verb? Okay, moving on to present tense. Present tense has an O sound between the first and the second letters of the shoresh, always indicated by a vav. It is the only present tense with an O sound. But if you are reading, it could conceivably get confused with a past tense pu'al verb, which also has a vav there, but it sounds like an u. Now, pu'al verbs are pretty rare. So rare, in fact, that my Ulpan did not even cover them until level 7. So that is the last level where we learned grammar. So this was one of the last things that I learned grammar-wise. So it's pretty unlikely that you'll come across it, and even less likely that if you do come across it, you will confuse it with a present tense pa'al verb. Now for past tense, and remember this is true for all of the binyanim, remember you're just going to listen to the sound of the name of the binyan. So we've got pa'al, we're going to have a. The verb is just the shoresh letters with an a in between. Okay, and I covered the future, so now let us move on. Most of the gizrot follow the same general patterns. Remember, a gizra is one of the subcategories within a binyan. But binyan pa'al, gizra, ayin vav, and ayin yod, these verbs have a vowel as the middle shoresh letter, and they are really, really different. They conjugate very differently. So I wanted to mention them on their own. See this little V here? That stands for vowel, and that means that the middle letter of the shoresh is a vowel, either vav or yud. I feel like these are a little bit obvious because they feel like they're missing a letter. You look for, you're trying to figure out where your shoresh is, and you've only got 2 letters. But they do conjugate very differently. The infinitive has an a on the lamed instead of an e, and then the only other vowel is that shoresh letter. So we have lashir, larutz, lariv, lavo, lasim. It's always either a-i or a-u or a-o. And the future rhymes though. Tashir, tarutz, tariv, tavo, tasib. So the future is following the pattern of the infinitive. The present and the past tense have just a single a vowel in between the first and the last shoresh letter in the third person singular masculine form. So for all those verbs, we have shar, ratz, rav, ba, sam. So for the third person singular masculine, it's ambiguous as to whether you're talking about the present tense or the past tense. But for all the other forms, you get either a present tense ending or a past tense ending. And so those are not ambiguous. And so those are the 2 main patterns for pa'al verbs. That's how you recognize if you see a pa'al verb. You'll know either by its simple a sound or by an o somewhere in it. PL. The infinitive, the present, and the future all have an e vowel pattern. And the present tense has a mem prefix. So if you have, for example, the verb meaning to teach, in the infinitive, you're going to have lelamet. In the present, you're going to have melamed. You've got that mem suffix, mem prefix. And in the future, you're going to have yelamet. Or another example, to speak, in the infinitive, you have ledaber. In the present, you have medaber. And in the future, you have yedaber. So you can hear that they all sound alike with respect to their vowels. They all have that e. Past tense of PL sounds really different because why? The vowel pattern matches the binyan, which is PL. So we have li, med, di, bear. The E is the really important part. The second vowel, which we have PL, so we have limed and diber, that only shows up in the third person singular masculine forms. In all the other forms, it's either an A vowel or a schwa. Hifil. This one is marked by a he or a mem prefix and then a yod sounding like E between the second and the third shoresh letters. In the infinitive, you have your typical lamed that marks all infinitives, and then you have a he with an a sound, and then you have the e at the end. So, for example, we have lehargish, lehamlitz, and lehachlit, and lehakshiv, all hifil verbs. The future, as always, matches the infinitive. And so with that ah sound on the personal prefix, so yargish, yamlit, yachlit, yakshiv. In the present tense, you have the same vowel pattern, but with a mem prefix instead of the hey. So we have margish, mamlit, machlit, makshiv. And in the past tense, the who form is just like the binyan name. So we've got E vowel pattern because it's hif e. So we've got hirgish, himlitz, hechlit, hikshiv. Hechlit gets an S sound because of that chet that's in the shoresh. And similar to PL, only the third person forms of hifil have the same vowel pattern as the name with two E's. The rest of them have an A as their second vowel. So here gish, but here gashti, here gashti, here gashta, here gashnu. Okay, so we have A's. The second vowel is an A in all of the other forms. But you still have that hey, and you still have that first E sound. Hitpa'el, an easy one to recognize because it always has an eat somewhere near the beginning. The vowel pattern of the infinitive is lehit'a'e, and the future matches yit'a'e. So one example is to correspond, to write letters to one another. We have lehitkatev is the infinitive. Hu yitkatev is the future tense. He will correspond with somebody. To get married, lehitchaten, and in the future, yitchaten. The present tense has a mem at the beginning, but it still has that eat sound. So mitkatev or mitchaten. And then, as usual, the past is just like its name, hit'a'e, because it's hitpa'el. So hitkatev, hitchaten. And just like the others, the last vowel is an a in the other form. So if we got married, hitchatanu. Okay, huf'al and pu'al do not have infinitive forms. So remember, their only purpose is to be the passive voice of hif'il and pl verbs. So with huf'al, the present always starts with a mem, and then the vowel pattern is u'a. So murgash, mumlatz, those are huf'al verbs. And the past tense has the hey because it's a huf'al verb. It's going to have that same pattern. And so hurgash, humlatz. And in the future, it just gets the prefix, whatever personal prefix, and it gets the u vowel. So yulgash, yumlatz. Again, pu'al has no infinitive, and it is the passive of PL. The present tense of PL is me'a'e. That's the vowel pattern. And the present tense of pu'al is me'u'a. And so they both have a mem with a shva at the beginning. PL has a'e afterwards, and pu'al has u'a. And that's the present tense. The past tense has no prefix, and it has an u'a vowel pattern. So this is the one that, remember, you need to, if you're reading it without nikud, the past tense of pu'al can look like the present tense of a pa'al verb. So you got to be careful with it. And then the future tense is going to have the same vowel pattern as the present tense, except that instead of the mem prefix, it's going to have the appropriate personal prefix. So, ye'u'a. Lastly, we have nif'al, which can be the passive of pa'al, but it can also stand on its own as an active verb. The infinitive starts with lehi, and it needs a yod to mark that E sound. Then it gets an a'e vowel pattern. So lehi a'e. And of course, the future will sound the same. Yi'a'e, ti'a'e. All of them with a yod, except for the ani form. I don't know why, but because of the aleph, the ani form doesn't need it. And so, for example, we have lehikanes, means to enter. So tikanes, yikanes, but ekanes. Present and past tense of nif'al sound exactly the same in the hu form. And it's just like the pa'al with the vav or the yod in the middle, how like to say hu ba, you don't know if you're saying he's coming or he came. And the same is true with the hu form in nif'al verbs. There actually is a different vowel, but you can't hear the difference, right? One is a kamatz, one is a pataf. And so, but you can't hear the difference nowadays. Even though the hu form is the same in the present and the past, all of the other forms are going to be different because the present tense verbs are going to get present tense endings for the feminine singular or feminine plural, and the past tense endings are all different also. It's only the hu form that's the same. So the present tense, for example, the present tense of lehikanes would be nichnas, nichneset, nichnasim, nichnasot. Whereas the past tense is going to be nichnasti, nichnasta, nichnast, nichnas, nichnesa. Okay, they're going to sound really different. You're going to be able to tell. It's only the hu form that you can't. So that is it for today. We covered all of the main identifiers for all of the binyanim. As I mentioned, I do intend to go into each binyan way more thoroughly in my future videos, but I thought an overview might be a good idea. What do you think? Was it helpful? Let me know in the comments. And as always, if you have any questions or feedback, leave it in the comments and I will do my best to respond. And also, if you have any aspect of Hebrew grammar that has you flummoxed, let me know and I will do my best to explain it in a future video. Hit like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe and press the notification bell if you want to see more. Lehitraot, papa'am haba'ah. See you next time.